everyone. Well, we've completed another week of Trinidad Bhojpuri Words. Now, this is a weekly video series compiling Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrases, pronunciation, translation, usage, etymology, as well as stimulating interaction and conversation. So, welcome to this weekly recap. I'm Karen Das.
And I'm Dr. Visham Bhimull from Caribbean Hindustani.
Well, we certainly hope that you guys had a splendid Diwali. Dr. Bhimull, how was your Diwali?
Quiet, loud because of the fireworks, but
Yeah.
it was, my birthday was actually a week before. So it's be a task where my birthday is actually fall on Diwali.
Oh,
Yeah, so, it was just family, home, quiet, lighting diyas whenever you spent the night over.
yeah, it was pretty much the same on my end, but also quite noisy. All right,
Mhm.
so we hope that you guys, you enjoyed your Diwali. You had wonderful moments and beautiful memories. And if you kept up with the words in the week of Diwali, you've realized that there was sort of a Diwali theme. So let's start with Monday's word. And we started the week with Kajar. Kajar. Lots of people know Kajal and not Kajal as in the actress, but Kajar. And it's a tradition that's still practiced. Maybe some of you tried this on Diwali night. So, Dr. Bhimull.
Right, so this is one example where a Trinidad Bhojpuri word is the same word as a Hindi word, but the Hindi la becomes ra, right? So we know it as kajar, but you hear kajal. So the ra becomes la in Hindi, right? The ja actually occurs in Bollywood because kajarare. Everybody knows that song? You have the
Yes.
ja there. And kajariya, kajar. You hear that in songs as well. Because you see, the language our ancestors would speak and pass down to us actually comes from an older form of the modern standard Hindi. So that you would hear all these words in these poems from Bollywood that would ascribe to a particular time period. So Kajar is something you would hear not in everyday spoken Hindi. You would hear Kajal. I mean, the name of the actress is that. But you would hear Kajar or Kajarare or Kajariya, which would be familiar to people from songs, right? So, and one thing I want to mention is that why you hear it in songs is they talk about the beauty of a woman. So the kohl that you apply to your eyes, they say mascara. And well, specific to Diwali is that we prepare the kajar to use for the entire year. So normally you take some ghee to act as a nucleus where the soot would collect from the diya itself. So you put, it's basically you take a diya, you put some ghee and rub it, and then you put it on the flame so that the soot would now collect in the ghee so that it's actually greasy to apply, right? One thing, there's a song, यशोमती मैया से बोले नंदलाला राधा क्यों गोरी मैं क्यों काला बोले मुस्काती मैया ललन को बताया. I think she was saying that the darkness or the kajal in Radha's eyes is a beauty. So dark is beautiful. I think that was the essence of that song. So there's always this thing about the darkness to the eyes as beauty, and it's always reflected in Hindi/Hindustani, even Trinidad Bhojpuri culture.
Yes, and it's not mascara. So this is where the women will correct the men because it's mascara is the one that you put on the eyelashes. It's more of a like an eyeliner that goes there, the lid, just below the eyes. And I think as a dancer, I can actually add to this because it actually brightens up the eyes. So that way it really does call attention to the gaze. So so natural is beautiful. So kajar was our word on Monday. I also noted though that some folks actually use a spoon. If you can't have like a second diya, you just use a spoon and you do the same. You apply it the same way.
Yeah, I remember as a child, my parents used a spoon.
Yeah. Well, you can't make kajar without Tuesday's word, which was Batti. And I was so happy that so many people messaged saying, oh, come on, Karen, this one is so easy. Batti.
Right. There's a famous song by Anup Jalota that goes to deep Hamabati. So it's saying that you are the light and I am the wick, right?
Mm.
telling God that you're the light and I'm the wick. So Bati is a Hindi word, but a lot of times we have noticed the shortening. So for instance, chadar is the word, but we say chadar. So this is an example where Bati now becomes Batti, right?
Mm.
And it specifically means the wick that you'd use to light the diya. In some instances in poetry, it's used as the light itself.
Okay, batti. What is agarbatti?
Agarbatti is fragrance. So incense is the Hindi word for incense.
Okay, so it's not necessarily
No, not it is. Yes, yeah, it is. But why? Because remember, agarbatti is a batti. It's a wick, a form of a
Oh,
wick.
right. So it is just a wick that has fragrance.
Yeah,
That's used for lighting.
a fragrant wick. So the idea of
Right.
a agarbatti, it burns just like a wick till the end.
Okay. So now we
But
know
so in other words, it doesn't bring light; it brings fragrance. That's the difference.
fragrance. That's right. Okay. On Wednesday, we usually go with a Trinidad Bhojpuri phrase and our midweek phrase, again, following that theme of Diwali, Jam Ki Diya. I remember though, years ago, when I was working at another radio station, I remembered some people saying Jam Ki Deep. But
Mhm.
Jam Ki Diya, that's what we used on Wednesday and appropriately chosen on the eve of Diwali.
Right. So the actual formal Hindi is yum deep. That's where you get that from, right?
Mhm.
Um, what we tend to find is that there's a mix in between the Bhojpuri and the Hindi, so that they want to maintain the word deep. Yes, deep is also used in Bhojpuri, but it's more formal Hindi, so you find it more Hindi. Diya is the Diya itself. And there's
Mhm.
another example where ya becomes ja. So yoga is joga. Yogi is jogi.
Oh.
Yum is jum. Yug is jug. So that's how a ya becomes a ja in Trinidad Bhojpuri. Hindi ya becomes a ja, right? So the Hindi yam deep now becomes jam ke diya, which is, well, Jam is the god of death, right?
Mhm.
Hades in Roman um, mythology. Um, so it's essentially a diya or a light for the god of death. Um, different stories as to why it is the god of death. One is, well, at least we looking at death in the form of the ancestors who would have carried on the tradition in respect to them. Or it could also mean that, well, the Yam Ke Deep is you light a diya for Yam so that you wouldn't have that fear of death in the celebration of the festivities, which supposed to represent light, right?
Mm.
But it's quite interesting. There's a contrast here because there's light in darkness, which has a lot of metaphors to it. So,
Right.
darkness is death. Why? Because we don't know what happened after. So we call it, um, well, Kal is time. Kali means dark. That's the reason.
Okay, so when we would hear the older folks say Ramayan Jug, it was really Ramayan Yajna or Yagya or Yagna.
Yeah, and they wouldn't say Ramayana. That's not it. They say Ramayan. Is it
Ramayan Jug.
Ramayan Jug? Right, yeah. So Ramayan. That's like Narayan becomes Narayan.
Fine.
So
Yes.
that's another nuance with regard to accents in Bhojpuri Eastern Hindi versus modern Standard Hindi.
Well, this took us into Diwali Day. So you had greetings and felicitations. Now, we are so used to hearing and seeing Shubh Diwali. We thought it would be refreshing to extend greetings in Trinidad Bhojpuri. So our word on Diwali Day was Badhaai. But we also learned other words that can be used to extend greetings for the occasion. So before we jump into the other words, let's tackle Badhai.
So Badhaai means congratulations, and it's specifically used more often in Hindu festivities. But I want you to remember something. The language of our ancestors came from a colonial period, and it's unique to that. So a lot of words in modern Standard Hindi that exist today didn't exist back then. They weren't loaned directly from Sanskrit. So we call them tat. Some words, those words were borrowed directly from Sanskrit into Hindi, and tatbhav words, which words would evolve. So Badhaai is a tatbhav word, meaning that Badhaai existed during the colonial times and was brought here. So it is unique to Trinidad Bhojpuri as well as modern standard Hindi conversationally, right? it means congratulations. But the other words we'll explore now also means the same thing and could be used interchangeably. There are contextual differences, as you would have seen in the comments.
Right. So we had Badhaai. Let's just share some of the other words for those who missed the comment. So we had Diwali Mubarak.
Right. And well, I mean, me growing up in a Hindu home, I never really heard Mubarak. But when I started doing my research in Trinidad, Bhojpuri, Hindustani, and Hindi, and interacting with a lot of speakers of Hindi from India, Diwali Mubarak was quite common, right? It was quite common, and it would have seemed to be used during that earlier period in the language, so that I didn't really hear it in Trinidad, but started hearing it in India. It actually is a common expression. Mubarak is a synonym for Badhaai, which means congratulations. It comes from Arabic, right? Now, this Shubh Diwali, which is commonly used, was not in use by our ancestors. The word Shubh is that some words it was borrowed directly from Sanskrit, so would have only come into use after the independence of India, right? As well as Shubh Kamnai, which comes directly from Hindi. There's another synonym for congratulations. So when you say Diwali ke Badhaai, which is Bhojpuri, becomes Diwali ki Badhaai or Badhaiya in Hindi, in the same way you construct Diwali ki Shubhkamnaye, right? So this is formal Hindi. So that, for instance, in India, if you'd go to your friend's house or your friend comes to your house, you wouldn't say Shubhkamnaye. That'll seem like you're being stush, right? Like you say, good morning, sir. You wouldn't tell a friend that. So it comes as if you're saying that. I mean, if Modi brings greetings to the nation, he would say Diwali ki Hardik Shubhkamnaye, which is Shudh Hindi, right? But from a Trinidad Bhojpuri perspective, these words didn't exist. They only came in afterwards. Some of the comments were that, well, you do use Mubarak with Diwali. And that's not true, because if you go to India, Diwali Mubarak is quite a common expression that you would hear during these festivities of Diwali.
And I noted Diwali Abhinandan.
Right, this is another loan term, so that Bhav Abhinandan comes from Sanskrit directly. You hear the word Abhinandan, it means greetings, right? Abhinandan means greetings. So it's not congratulations as the others. The others, Shubhkamnaye, Mubarak, Badhaai, all means congratulations. But Abhinandan is more like greetings. So, or Namaskar. So it's like Diwali greetings you bring in.
And it's Badhaai, which is a normal the.
Badhaai is like Dhobi. Same tha.
Badhaai. Okay, yes, and we hear this in Bollywood movies. Badhaai when there's a wedding or something.
Badhaai o Badhaai. Bhaiya aur Babiji, Badhaai o Badhaai from Hum Aapke Kaun.
Yeah, well, right, there you go. So, okay, so we wrapped up the week with a food-related word. And what is Diwali without Bhojan, which was the word chosen for Friday?
Right, and remember we did a word called Khaika before. That is the more popular word, whereas Bhojan comes from loan from Sanskrit, but it still existed during the time of the indentureship and colonial period. It's just that Bhojan was more used when you would have a feast or food of a feast. So when you have things like bandara, prayers, and the food you would eat on a leaf, that will be Bhojan, right? Whereas sada roti and tomato choka, damadulwa ke choka is Kaika, right? Bhojan actually comes from bhog in Sanskrit, which is food in that context, right? Bhog bilas is the expression food and enjoyment. So bhojan means food and used more in the context of a yug, as we say a jug, or a feast. So it's food within the context of a feast or a gathering.
And Mohan Bhog is food that's offered to God.
Well, it's Mohan Bhog, because the word okay, so we say Mahal in Hindi, but we say Mahal in Bhojpuri, right? Mure se surji ki dui dui mahaliya. So they say Maha becomes Maha. In Bhojpuri, the A is rounded. So Mohan Bhog is really Mahan Bhog, means great Bhog, great food, or the food of the gods, or the food for the gods. So that's why I get Mahan Bhog.
Mahan Bhog. Okay, so Mahan Bhog would have been the Bhojpuri words.
Mohan Bhog. So
Mohan.
yet, okay. So one thing in Bhojpuri is that we don't say a closed a like in Hindi a. We say it as o. So it's like Bengali as well because bhajan is bhojan in Bengali. So a lot of these words like Mahan becomes Mohan, Mahabir becomes Mohabir. This is popular. Yes, Mahabir is spelled Mohabir, right? And Mahal, Taj Mahal is Taj Mahal in Bhojpuri. So that again is an accent difference, and it is unique to speakers of Eastern Hindi, Awadhi, and Bhojpuri.
Well, this was a really, really fun week. So thank you, Dr. Bimal, for also falling in line with the theme of sharing light on Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. So we hope you guys had fun with us. We certainly enjoyed the interaction on social media. So we have some fresh words for you in the coming weeks. And we want to thank you so much for reaching out to us, for sharing your thoughts, for making suggestions as well. We'll try our very best to keep up with all the words that you're also sending to us for use on Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. So, Dr. Bimal, share with us how folks can get in touch with you.
Right, Caribbean Hindustani Facebook page as well as the website caribbeanhindustani.org. Feel free to leave a message, any questions or suggestions you might have.
All right, so I'm Karen Das of the KDC. This is a KDC production in collaboration with Dr. Visham Bhimull of Caribbean Hindustani. So until next week, bye.